Hey everybody, this is Dana with the Freedom Please channel and essenceofme.com. I am going to try to make it so my family can move around. Oh, this is way too high. I have you propped up on a book. Oh, there we go. So I'm doing this vlog live. I'm a few minutes early, so I'll wait a little bit before I fully start. I am going to save this video as an update for the Seeing Stars quilt along, and I'm going to tell you all what I have planned to do with that project, or at least what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm undecided. So as always, don't forget to grab a project, something that you're working on. I'm going to show an update of the Coles River kerchief. I was about to call it a shawl. The Coles River kerchief. I'm also going to show you all of my blocks that I have so far from the Seeing Stars quilt along. I am not caught up, but I'm moving. And so not moving like houses, but meaning I'm moving along in the process. Everything that's left to piece has been cut. I actually have some blocks on the design board behind me, and I have maybe three or actually at the sewing machine that I was working on before I went live. And I'll finish those once we finish. So before I jump into this, who do I have with me? Hey, I'm so glad you could make it. I did also hint on Instagram that I'm gonna do like a tutorial, like a mini demonstration, and this is something that you all have asked about, and that is the freezer paper technique. And so, hey, thank you for joining me. The freezer paper technique. I'm going to show you all how to do it. Like I even have it all prepped. Do you all know how to do the freezer paper technique? Tell me in the comments. I'll try to not miss it. But so I'm going to show you all what I have going on. It is 3 o'clock and I'm going to get started sitting here with a cup of coffee and my crochet. Yay! I'm so glad you have your project. So yes, grab you something to drink. I will not do that with scissors. Grab you a beverage or a snack. And oh, that's good that you don't know because I'll be showing you today. Beverage, snack, something to work on. I today am drinking one of my favorite coffees from one of my favorite mugs. If I have not told you all before, I love mugs. It's one of the things that I love. This is one that says, faith can move mountains, and on the inside it has the scripture, and I would show you, but if I did, I'd waste coffee everywhere, and that would be no good for me. But it has Matthew 17:20 on the inside, so as you drink, you see the scripture. So that's pretty cool. And so let's start off with the Coles. I'm gonna start off with the Coles River kerchief. Now, let me just tell y'all this. I can tell y'all this because many of y'all that are here right now, y'all been with me for a minute. If you're new, welcome. Uh, this crochet along has been very interesting. I thought it was going to go fast. It hasn't necessarily been slow, and I actually think I'm going to end on time. But the problem is this whole thing is done in single crochet. Like newsflash, I wish somebody would have said, hey, just so you'll know that the whole project is done in single crochet. I probably would have changed my mind, even though it is super fly. And when you see it, it looks beautiful. And another caveat, you will hear my family. It's Sunday. So I'm in an open office space, which I always warn you all about. So you may see people walking by. You may hear them talking. So here we go. Look at it. Oh, it's curling because an increase is done on this end. Now, because we are family, I'm going to show you where I had some massive hiccups and boo-boos at the beginning of this project, and I plan to cover them up, but it was right here. For some reason in the pattern, I had a lot of issues with this edge of my project. Hey, Tracy. I was having a lot of issues with this edge of my project. And so what I end up doing in true Dana style is I just adapted and did something a little different on this end. And I plan to add an edging so that it will pretty much disguise it. From a distance, you can't see it. And if I wouldn't have shown you, you wouldn't have seen it. But overall, I'm loving the project. One of the things that I am doing is I'm doing the double knot. I don't know what the technique is called, the double knot for my color changes. And you really can't see it if you don't get super close. But it's a technique that I loved, and I've showed that before. This yarn, amazing. Again, it's from Delicious Yarn. I showed it a couple years ago, but I'm going to show you the cakes. Here is the green, and here is what they call blueberry blue. And what I've been doing, I'm trying not to mix up my ends. What I've been doing is rotating them every once in a while because I want to use up all of it. And I didn't want that when I decided to introduce the blue that it just came out of nowhere. So the speckles have helped, and I've randomly added it in throughout the project. And I'm hoping that I have enough that when I do the edging, that I'll do it with the edging. And here was another area that I just felt like it's not totally straight, and you can block it straight so it'll be nice and crisp. But what I plan to do is do an edging. And because a lot of you that are on my or quite a few are crocheters, one of the things that I do when you have issues like this, one, you can stop and frog it and start all over again. I don't believe in that. Like, I feel like if you've spent a lot of time working on it, I'm not about to start a project all over again, especially if it's for me, or if I think I can fix it. Now in the beginning I did, and that's how I knew that I was having issues on that one side. And so after a while I just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep going, and I know how to fix it. But for this is when you can do an edging and it will help. But when you do the edging, your first row, okay, this is like mini demonstration, mini tutorial. Your first row to establish your edging, what you want to do is when this area dips, you want to use a different stitch size. So when you have a single crochet, a double crochet, single crochet, half double, double, triple, or treble, however you want to say it, those actually are indicators of the size of the stitch. So when you look here, what I'm gonna do is I would do single, 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 and I get in here, I would do single, single, double. I may even do two half doubles, not a double. It's like single, single, half double, two half doubles. I would do a half double here, and then I would go back to single. And what that would do is on this edge, it would smooth it out. And then what I would do is go back and do one more, and then do all of those stitches the same all the way across, and that'll smooth it the rest of the way out. So you don't always have to frog a project to fix it. And this will be one of those things that if someone's all on you, they may see it, but that's only if they know what they're looking at. And if they are that close and they have a problem, sis, I need 50 feet. You don't want to be rude. But so that's one of the ways that you can fix your project. And I plan to do it with this. I'm just trying to make sure I watch my yarn because I don't want to have to buy more. I have plenty of green and plenty of blue, and we are on the last 2 sections maybe or so, and there's going to be more lace, and I'm going to do the lace all in blue, and I'm kind of thinking of maybe doing just 1 or 2 rows of lace in green, the same way that I've sprinkled the blue in these green areas. And so I'll play with that as I go. I'm enjoying it, but again, I'm not feeling that it's all single crochet. And not only is it all single crochet, I'm hoping I remember this when I do the overview of the pattern or the review of the pattern. It's single crochet with thin yarn and a small hook. That was just like, Dana, you was not paying attention. You was just persuaded by the look. And so with that said, now I'm going to show you my blocks for the blocks that I have for the quilt along. Now my update on that is I'm 1 week behind, and the week that for this week, which she just released on Wednesday, we're going to do it with this I'm gonna do a little bit of it today with you, and I think this is actually gonna go pretty fast. Um, thank you. Okay, here we go. And she was saying like it'll look beautiful. And I thank you. It's going to be because I'm aware it. So one of the things that we talked about in my, because I've only did one video, I have footage for the other ones, and again, that's the epiphany of this whole vlog thing, is that I'm going to start just gathering my footage from that week and just doing it that way. I kind of wanted it to all just be one project, but I'm doing two things at one time, and it's been crazy. So here is the way that I'm storing my large blocks. One of the suggestions by BJ was to put it on a hanger, which was an amazing suggestion. But I'd already pulled this out and had already stored it by the time I read her comment, but I will remember that next time. This is one of the little pool floaty thingies. Thingy is my technical term. Pool floaty thingies, and I've rolled it up on here. And then I'm going to show you the smaller blocks first. Then I'll get to the big blocks. So here are, it was just some basic star blocks. And there's 6 of these. And then I have 5 in this color combination. Then we had a week of what she called improv. But my improv doesn't have much is it improvisation? Not improvisation in them. Because it was just too much thinking. So here's one. Here's the same purple center block with blue. And some of these I have like 2 of them. Some I have 3 of them. I wasn't counting that. I was going by how much fabric I had. In the beginning, she said that it was fat quarter friendly. And part of me kind of wishes I wouldn't have done it with fat quarters. And I ended up doing it with fat quarters because that's what I had a lot of. I had some yardage, which was the background, but most of it was fat quarters. And I feel like when we were getting to certain blocks, because you couldn't plan in advance, I didn't know what I had, and some stuff I didn't have enough of, and it made quick cutting difficult. So if I were to do this again, I would do it with yardage. And honestly, I would do it after all of the blocks were available, because it just makes it so that you can plan a little bit better. But in the end, like, this is the only one with this green. Okay. So those were the improv blocks. Hold on. Now to the big blocks that are rolled up on here. I have it rolled around with just some little scrunchies. Some little cheap scrunchies that I got from the dollar store. This floaty you can get anywhere. I got it at a quilting retreat. It was given as a gift. So, okay. Yes, they are coming along beautifully. Okay, so I'm going to show you the big blocks first. This got to be no judgment zone. Y'all got on my crazy house clothes. Today, our church had we had a family and friends day, and I had so much fun. They have food trucks there, and I promise you, that food touched my soul. It was some good vegan food. They had different food trucks, but I had vegan food, and it was so delicious. Okay, so here's the first one. I'm going to stand up with it. This block is 24 inches. It's very busy, I know. Okay, that's one. I think I'm going to roll. I'm sorry. Y'all going to get me chopped up a little bit. And here's how I'm storing it. I put it on here and I roll. Okay. The next one is this block. This is another one of the 24-inch blocks. Huge. Huge, huge, huge. Okay, I'm going to roll this one up. Oh, no, it went away. Oh, she stores her quilts that way? I need to check. I didn't see that. When I go to my the quilt retreat at the beginning, I'm going to show the next one while I talk. When I go to the quilt retreat at the beginning of the year, a lot, the majority of the quilters there are seasoned quilters. And so what ends up happening is I get a lot of tips and tricks that I probably wouldn't find out on my own from them. And so there was a group of them that they gifted this to me, and they gifted everybody there. Oh Lord, I just dropped them all on the floor. All of them, all of us there we go. Sorry. They gifted all of us one. Okay, so here's my next set of blocks. These blocks, what was it called? Oh, no. Here's another, is this a 24? I don't think this is a 24. Oh, this is the block that was supposed to be something else, and I winged it because it was supposed to be a curve block, and I didn't want to do curve blocks. So this is what I made instead. What I did instead, because I already had the pieces cut, was I took the cut pieces that were already cut, and instead of, like, this was going to be the background, this was going to be the curved piece. So what I did is I just snowballed one corner of each of the blocks, and then that made this bow tie block kind of block with the star point still on it. So here's one. Here's the other two. Isn't that pretty with that purple? And if you notice, what I did is to help it match a little bit, I matched these center snowball corners to my points. Okay, that's two. Here is the third one. And these are fairly large too. I think these are 18 inches. Okay. Now, here are the pinwheel blocks. I'm going to just stay standing. Here's one. We have been really working with this too. Really working hard with this quilt along. 3. This is like a dark, rich purple. I love it, love it, love it. And one more. 4. This is another fabric that's been like, I found that I really, really like it. So is that it? Yeah. So those are all the blocks that I have for right now. She says that this quilt along is for a confident beginner, and I would have to agree. Her tutorials are very thorough on her blog. Even though they do not have video instructions, there are pictured instructions for every single step that she does. And so for that reason alone, I think it would be a great one to do. I'm going to roll these up, and then we're going to get to any questions before I do the how are we on time? Okay, and then I roll these up and put the little scrunchy things back on here. What did I do with it? Oh, there they go. No. I don't know what I did with that fast. Okay, I probably dropped it when the whole thing fell. Oh, I did. The name of the quilt, Happy Quilter. Hold on. I think it's Happy Quilting Melissa, maybe. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look. On Instagram, her name is Happy Quilting MC. And her quilt is, her quilting address is happyquiltingmelissa.com. So that's who's doing the quilt along. It's a free quilt along, and all of the information for the quilt along is in that week 1 video that I did probably 3 weeks ago. It's got to be 4 weeks maybe ago, and all the information is there. Yep, that's it. That is her IG. And so all of the instructions every week is on there. She does do weekly giveaways, but if you're just doing it at your own pace, I would go through and just save all of the instructions by printing, either, the way that I showed you to do the blog post into a PDF, and then you could just save them on your computer until you're ready to do it. And what's really cool is each of these blocks really could be its own quilt. The fact that we're doing this, the different sizes and the different variations, is making it so it's almost like a sampler, but you can do any one of them as a standalone and make a whole quilt out of that. So it's really cool. Any other questions before I do the demonstration? Anybody that sees that, can you flag it, please? Because I can't do it I'm doing it on my iPad. So, sorry, that's hot. That's my coffee. So, what I'm going to do today for the demonstration is I'm going to show you all the freezer paper technique. You asked me before, several people asked me, and I talked about it, and I tried it, and I don't know what happened. Like, I had the footage, but I don't recall ever uploading it. So I'm going to get the roll. So this is regular freezer paper. Okay, let me tell you why you would use it, and then I'll show you. The freezer paper technique makes it so that if you're doing applique pieces, or you're doing, honestly, any type of template piece, that you can not have to make several templates and cut around your paper template, or trace every one of the templates onto your fabric, then cut them out. Another time that the freezer paper technique is really good is if you're doing paper piece blocks. And it's a little bit different, but still you can use the freezer paper to help you with paper piecing, because usually with paper piecing you'll have 10 block, or let's say you're doing a 30 blocks of that same template. You would have to cut 30 of them, and you're cutting on the paper. With the freezer paper technique, you don't have to do it that way. And if that's something you're interested in, let me know. I haven't done it in a long time, so I would need to find a pattern, but it's cool and it's fun. So with that said, you use freezer paper just like you get from your grocery store. Now, I have seen now that they have freezer paper that's made for crafting, but I got this whole box probably 4 years ago from Walmart for like probably $5, and I still have a bunch of it left. This will probably last me like 10 years. Okay, I'll try to find like a paper piece one that works really well and that's free online. But you go get regular freezer paper. Now, the thing that I found, and I think it's because using freezer paper is really not a popular thing anymore. I think it's an old school thing that is still valid, but we don't use it anymore because now we have Ziploc bags and we have all this other stuff. So usually I've only seen the big containers. I've never seen like the small ones like you see saran wrap and wax paper. And for all of that, this is different. You want freezer paper because one side is shiny and one side is, yes, it is. Miss Marilyn said it's like $4 or $5. One side is shiny, one side is paper, and you need that because the shiny side is what makes this possible. Okay, so I tore off a little piece of it, and here is the pattern that we're doing. Forgive my tracing. It's this little star, and on this pattern, we're going to applique this star onto our fabric. The other reason why this is really good is because if you're doing applique pieces, you can cut out your, with this, we're doing 28 stars. So usually what you would have to do is trace 28 stars on 28 pieces of fabric. And now what you can do is trace one, or actually I'm doing maybe like 8 of them so I can stick on several and work through them all at one time, and it's a lot faster. Okay, so what I did is I tore a little piece of the freezer paper off, about 4.5 inches. You just want it to be bigger than your template. I traced my template onto the non-shiny side of the freezer paper. Then for this particular one, because this is so small, I just folded up my freezer paper as many times as I could. That would give me a full cutout of my pattern. Y'all let me know if at any time this is confusing. But so this will basically, when I cut with you today, it'll give me 4 of these templates. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I did this yesterday and I got several here, and I'm gonna show you. So here's my paper template that I cut out. I traced it, cut it out, and then that gave me 4 of these little stars. And I'm going to show you when I go over to my ironing board how to use it, but I'm going to walk you through the steps. So then you would take this and put it on top of the fabric. Let me go get a piece of fabric, just a second. So here's the piece of fabric, and then what you would do is take your shiny side and put it down on the on your fabric. Now, sometimes people say do it on the print side. Sometimes they say do it on the back. I do it on the front side because this particular star is not directional. But if you have a piece that's directional, you want to pay attention to how you cut it and what side you actually place it on. So you would take your shiny side, you would place it on the front. I'm going to put it on the front side of my fabric. Then you would put your iron on it for probably about 10 seconds. Depends on how hot you have your iron. Once you lift it, it should be stuck to your fabric. And once it's stuck to your fabric, you cut around it. And here's an example. Now, what I did, because this star does not have to be a particular size, and because the background fabric is much larger, what I did to save my template is I just cut just a little bit bigger around it, just a hair, so I would not cut my template, my freezer paper template. The beauty of this is that this little thing will stick probably I've done it like 6 or 7 times, and it still had some stick to it for some reason, and it doesn't leave a residue. I'm going to pull it off in just a second so that you'll see, but it's like amazing. So you stick it, you cut around it. Once you cut around it, then you remove it. And like that. And then now I have a star. And then I have a template that can be used again until it just doesn't stick anymore. So with that said, I'm going to go through the steps real quick. Of course, when you cut the freezer paper, you want to use your paper cutting scissors. When I did it the other day, I realized that I should have clipped it just so that it won't shift as much. And let me know if you have any questions. Right now, I'm cutting. This, again, can be done with applique, paper piecing, and that's the only ways I've used it. I've liked it most with paper piecing. I've only done applique a few times. Oh, and I've done this also. Well, I did it once to make my daughter's pillows. I wanted to make her pillows that had Winnie the Pooh. And I used this freezer paper technique to trace Winnie the Pooh from a coloring book page. And that was pretty cool. Another technique that I used to do that same type of transfer was I used Tulle, and that works. Have you guys ever used Tulle to trace a pattern? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So here we go. It's 4 pieces. And now what we're going to do is go over to, oh wait, do I have 4? Oh, I have 5. I have 5. Now, the trick of all of this is that you need to make sure that you are sticking the fabric side, the shiny side to your fabric. So let's go to my ironing board. And I'm just going to do 1. And paper piecing, would you say paper piecing is easier than... Paper piecing, I like paper piecing, but I need to find a paper piecing project that I really like. Um, I just like how with paper piecing you can use a lot of scraps and it'll allow you to maintain your points and you can do intricate piecing, but it's guided. So it really helps in that regard. I think the biggest hiccup with paper piecing for me is that there's a learning curve. It's not as easy as just regular piecing to me. And anybody else that has, if you have experience with it, you can always chime in. So here we go. So we have the template and my fabric. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just press my fabric a little bit to make sure I wake up my iron because it's been sitting over there. Number one, what I would do is make sure that you don't have the steam on your iron. So I just kind of press it just a little bit because I have this little bend. And I'm going to see, can I turn? I'm going to see if I can turn, you all. Hold on. Oh, you can. Okay. All right, if you ask a question, I won't be able to see it for a second. So just a second. So I'm going to press this. No steam. And you don't have to do this first. I'm doing it right now because it was a little crooked. And this size of this square is what she gave us in the pattern. I wish it was smaller, but so I'm going to just put it here. And I have my shiny side down. You'll know it's your shiny side because it's slick. And then I'm just going to take my iron and I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to leave it there for a second. I'm going to grab a couple more. And see, look. See that? It's stuck on there. And I'm going to do it just a little bit more. So you see that? I'm going to do it again. Let me grab another one. This will allow me to do them. So I'm going to grab a few more stars and I'm going to do it with another piece of fabric just so you see the fabric is, not a big deal. Even though all of this is 100% cotton. So here. So I'm going to use this block. I have my star. So here's the star if I just put it on there, right? So I'm going to put my shiny side down and I always just rub it and that's how I know it's shiny. And again, you all, we may lose a little bit of light, but that's just so that we can still. Okay, here we go. I'm just putting as close as I can to the edge because I'm going to cut off this excess. She had us made super large blocks for this for some reason. I'm going to prep my next piece. Lift it. And sometimes you may need to check and make sure your corners were actually under your iron. And here we go again. See? So I'm going to do a couple more and then we'll go over and cut. I'm going to go to my cutting board, shiny side. Now, you want to be careful. You don't want to put the shiny side on your iron, right? Because it's some sort of wax or something. And I just let mine just sit there for a second. Now, what I am going to do is this is actually the one that I had before, so I'm going to use this one a second time. Shiny side down. And now what we're going to do is go over to my cutting board. And I'm going to cut off the excess because this excess is going to go for my scrap. There you go, for my scrap projects. So let me switch you around. So now we're going to go to my cutting board. And now I have all of them here. And I'm going to try to turn you again to see. There we go. Again, don't ask a question right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take off the excess because I just want to save it. So I'm just going to go outside it a little bit. Just a little. This is not, a part of this technique. I just want to save the fabric. Because this is big enough to add to a... Oh. a scrap project. And you want to be careful because if you start bending it too much, you may bend up your corners. You can always add a little more heat, but I just say be careful the first time. And then my rotary cutter must be getting dull. And I'm gonna, there we go. So what I normally do is just cut it down around it. So I'm gonna do that really quick, or I'm gonna try to do it really quick. Can you see? Oh, that's better, because I couldn't do it around the. Let me just do this. And then what you're gonna do is cut around the star the way you would normally do it. If you're doing applique pieces that you plan to turn under and hand stitch, when you cut around your template, you want to cut an approximate quarter of an inch around it. But because with these we're going to just stitch it any way you want to, I plan to probably do a decorative stitch. I haven't decided yet, but let me finish this and then we'll go back over and see all of these pieces I can use on something else. So let me go back over to my desk. If you're doing applique, again, you want to make sure that if you plan to do it like a traditional applique, you want to cut like a quarter of an inch over, right? And the way that you know, I'm going to grab a ruler just a second. This is a good ruler to have. This little lip is a quarter of an inch lip. And just to kind of, so you'll know when you cut that you have a quarter of an inch over. Because usually if you're doing applique, if you have that quarter of an inch over, you can flip it over the side. And if you're doing that technique, you would stick your freezer paper applique to the back side of your fabric, because then what you would do is you would cut the quarter of an inch, you would fold the lip of the fabric over your template, and you would leave your template on the inside until you're ready to hand sew it if you wanted to. But for these, I'm not. Okay, does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions? So these are some applique scissors, and they're also fabric only scissors. So, and all I'm going to do is cut. Again, I'm adding a little bit over just so that I don't run the risk of taking, you know, a little bit off of my my piece. Another option that you could do is you can add a little bit more of a lip over your around your template so that you could use like some perforated scissors to make it a little more decorative or something like that. Of course, you want to make sure that you don't, if you can, don't cut your template if you plan to use it again, because using it again is why it saves you so much time. There you go. And once you're done, see, and I'm gonna listen. Can you hear? Like it's weird. It's like, and then you just use it again. It's like it's sticky again. So I'm gonna do one more. I love this color. I can't even remember where I got it from. That's the sad part, because it is like really, really pretty. Okay, any questions? Questions? Is this something that you think you would use? I know y'all trying to work like I'm trying to work, but I want to finish this last one. Yes, it's so affordable too. Like, one of the things that I realized when we were doing the Dresden is I don't really like using paper templates. I always feel like I'm gonna cut the paper. I prefer the acrylic, but the truth is acrylic templates are expensive, especially if you don't even know if you're going to use it again. Yes, yes, I'm going to show you all that in just a second too. Or at least I'm going to try to, because I haven't decided how I'm going to do it. Okay, let's pull this one off. You know what I could do is if I cut one of the light ones, we could just do it. I'm gonna cut this one, and then we can go to the sewing machine. It's not gonna be pretty, but I mean, this is a sampler. I mean, pretty much a sampler. So yes, you can. When it comes to putting applique down, again, I'm not the applique queen. I've only done it twice, but you can choose how you want to adhere it to your fabric. You could either do it as, like I said, if you had a quarter of an inch over, you could fold that quarter of an inch under and hand stitch in that fold. And if you've ever done hand stitch your binding, it's similar to that. Oh, I'm trying to talk. I'm going to make this ugly. I don't want to make it ugly. There we go. It's similar to that. The other thing that you can do, which I plan to do, is you can do just a straight stitch. And then eventually there will, and that's called raw edge. You'll be able to see the raw edges. And sometimes once you wash it, it may fray a little bit. I always think that gives it character. But that's up to you. The other option is that you can do a decorative stitch or a blanket stitch around there. I doubt that I would do that because to me it takes way too much concentration to stay straight. But I'm gonna show you all. I'm gonna do this one because the thread that's in my machine is cream. That's one of the other things that you have to consider when you decide how you're going to put your applique pieces on your fabric. And that is, let's say, for example, you want to use like a blanket stitch. Then you've got to decide what type of thread you want to use, especially like this project. I'm using all types of fabric. So therefore, I would potentially need thread to match with every one of the different ones that I know I'm going to do some sort of applique blocks with. So I'm going to take us over to my sewing machine. Here's what I have now. I'm going to show you. I used the little binder clips when I was doing cutting. And now I'm going to take us over to my machine. I think I can. Let's see if I have my blocks cut. Okay, let's go to my sewing machine. I'm going to do this light one, and I'm hoping it looks nice because it's going on a white block. I'm gonna do this. I don't know if I told you all I'm working on a memory quilt, and I'm so ready to finish it. A memory t-shirt quilt. It's like all over my studio, so it's like stuff everywhere. Okay, let's see if I can make this so you can see. The lighting is going to be a little bit off because I'm on the other side of my... Let's see if I can get it. Just 1 second. Let's see. Okay, let me try to move it. Just 1 second, y'all. Okay. Don't ask a question or anything because I won't be able to see. Okay. Can you see? Okay. I'll move it in just a second, but let's see. Okay. So what you do is you take your star. Now, on this particular one, what she suggests, can you see? There it goes. On this particular one, what you could do is fold your fabric in 4, right? You could fold it in 4 to make a crease, a cross crease, and then you could align your stars legs with those creases so that all of your stars will be aligned. But what I kind of want to do is make it like a little bit wonky, like it's tumbling stars. So that's what I'm going to do here. And this one's going to be a little hard to see because it's light on light, but this is what I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stitch at a regular, let me show you. On this Juki, I have it set so that my 2 is when I'm quilting, so it'll give me a 1/4 of an inch based on my presser foot. What I'm going to do here though is I am going to leave it at the standard straight stitch, and I'm going to drop the stitch length down. I'm actually going to do it really small because I want the stitches close together. And here we go. Let's see. Hopefully you can see. And you could probably change your presser foot so you can see a little bit better. Again, I can't see you while I'm doing this. So I'm going to drop my stitch. What I'm trying to do is get as close as I can to the point without eating into the fabric because I don't want it to fray. So maybe I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch and I'm going to drop my needle. Now when I drop my needle, I'm going to decide if I want to pull up the thread. Actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to bring it closer to one side. Oh, another thing that you can do is you can add a little bit of glue to keep this in place, but I'm not worried about it. Glue would, like regular Elmer's glue, would eventually wash out. This is the downside of having light fabric. So we're just going to have to go with the flow, Dana. Trying to get that first stitch in where I want it. I'm so used to looking at the quarter, I'm forgetting that it's centered. There we go. And I'm going to go really slow because I'm just going along the outside of my star. Now, when you get ready to pivot, because I'm at the corner of a star, you're going to lift your presser foot with your needle down, and you're going to turn the piece. For my settings, I do have it where anytime you stop, it automatically stops with the needle down. But if you don't have that, you want to make sure that you stop with your needle down so you can pivot and not lose your space or place. I think I want to go a little, do I want to go a little bit more? I think I can go one more stitch. When you do it this way though, make sure that you do not, that you don't go too close to the edge because you don't want it to fray prematurely. So if I had to gauge, I'm probably saying I'm coming about 1/8 of an inch in, and I'll show you all in just a second once I kind of get towards the end. These corners are a tad bit on the raggedy side because it's hard to see where I am because of this light fabric. So this is why you need to not, oh, there he goes. Okay, there we go. Find my way, find my way. And then also, when you're doing this, you want to take your time. You can't be in a rush with this type of thing because it will not work in your favor. And I'm a Speedy Gonzalez, so if I tell you that, know that I learned the hard way. Okay. And this is my last leg. Now, if you can, you want to try your best to stop where you started so that it'll close you off really good. And I think I am. But what I'm going to do is pivot and stitch over the stitches a couple times to lock everything in place. All right. And here we go. I'm going to take it over there so we can see. Okay. I'm going to take it over here so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to cut this excess off, and then this is not like beautiful work, but it is cute. here. So that's what I did. This is the portions that I told you that may fray a little bit later. You can also do a blanket stitch, which will drop in from the outside and just put points. But I wouldn't do that on camera because that would take so long. I would be holding my breath the whole time. Now, what I think I am going to do is I'm going to keep doing it this way, but I'm going to probably pull a purple thread or a teal thread so that it will intentionally pop on the fabric. And I'm also going to make sure that I don't want them centered. I want them to look like they're wonky since I did not do the improv block. Another thing is when I put them on there, I want to make sure I don't get too close to the outside edges because I do need to leave the 1/4 inch space that I need to piece it with the other pieces. So I hope that was helpful. Any questions before I say the last bit of piece and we call it a day because it is almost an hour. Look at that. Oh, when you're cutting your fabric, you want to make sure that you have sharp scissors because you don't want to start the fraying process early. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, some of it's from, I learned some of this from quilting classes, some of it from YouTube, some of it from trial and error, and it all comes together until you learn what works for you. I am going to also say that you want to make sure that your scissors are sharp because especially if you're doing the raw edge, you don't want to fray it again prematurely. Um, and so, yeah, if I was doing a piece that was like very intricate, I would do the blanket stitch. But since this one is going to be like a throw, I'm not really worried about it. I think it's going to give it character, especially if I add the colored thread. And I have a few over there, like some glossy ones that I usually use for top stitching. So I'm going to use that. I also have a variegated one. I actually may do the variegated one. If I did the variegated one on all of them, I could do the same one and do them all at one time and it'll go really fast because that's faster than doing the blanket stitch. So in closing, this quilt along will be ending this week. This coming week, she's going to tell us the layout of the quilt. But what I'm thinking about is doing a quilt as you go technique. That's one of the things I've been wanting to try, but I haven't tried it. And that would mean I wouldn't put them all together. I would take, I would maybe piece sections and maybe at the ballpark of like 24 inches, 18 to 24 inches or so segments, so that I maybe would have maybe 6 to 8 large chunks or something. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be laid out. And then quilt those pieces as I go. Oh no, you got to cut into it. Don't be scared. You know, if you're ever, and I'm going to finish this. Help me remember, scared to cut into good fabric. Okay. So if I do it in big chunks, then what I can do is then I can go in and actually quilt on top and then piece the top together and it will already be quilted. And I also think that if I did it that way, I could continue to use that as a vlogging journey, and it will allow me to work on my free motion quilting without having to do it on a huge quilt top. So let me know what your thoughts are about that, if that's something you'll be interested in seeing. I bought a book to help me, and let me grab it. Here it is. Here it is. Sorry. Here's the book that I bought to help me. The Quilt As You Go. One of the things that I think now that we have so many resources when it comes to YouTube and Google, that sometimes, you know, you may or may not want to buy a book to help with doing certain techniques, because this book I think was like 20 bucks, $22. And it's cheaper or more affordable to get it free on YouTube. However, whenever I have something that I think I know I want to try on a consistent basis, or I don't want to spend so much time bouncing around between all the different YouTube videos that I can find, I want to just have all the information in one condensed place so that I can make a good educated decision for myself. That's when I buy a book. And I kept seeing this particular book come up. She had like a version one, I think a contemporary, and then this is the vintage. And the reason why I decided to buy this vintage version was because in here she has 3 joining methods. And so, plus she has projects and she has blocks. I haven't done any of those. Um, yes, quilts as you go, in my opinion, is beautiful for beginners. And let me tell you why. Okay. Um, Okay, let me back up. Quilts as you go is when you do your top quilting as you go with your project so that you don't wait till you have a huge twin size, king size, or a throw to have to do the top stitching. And so that means instead of worrying about, like my last quilt that I did, when I quilted that quilt, it was like, let's say, guesstimate, like around 80 inches by 80 inches. And I'm trying to put it under a sewing machine and move it around. So think of that versus 12 inches, a 12-inch block. You would have much easier time maneuvering, especially if you wanted to do an intricate piecing, or even if you, or stitching, or even if you wanted to try new techniques, which is what I want to do. I've done quilting several quilt tops and I'm competent in it, but I want to be good at it, like really good, because I want to do my own. And so I think it's great for beginners. Another thing about the quilt as you go method is that you don't have to do free motion quilting. And that's when you start learning some of the differences. My dog is not happy. Y'all need to take her outside, I think. She's not happy. Um, so what I want to do is, for example, have the smaller pieces, work on the smaller pieces, get better at the smaller pieces, and slowly graduate myself up. Or depending on these joining methods, I'll decide if that's something I want to continue to do. Um, Another thing that I was saying, I'm sorry, my dog crying threw me off, is that you can try different techniques. So for example, there's free motion quilting where you use a darting needle, but then you can also use your walking foot, or you can just use your regular foot presser foot that's on there and just do top stitching in straight lines, but intricate straight lines or intricate echoing, and you don't have to know how to do free motion. And so I feel like that opens up a lot of opportunities when you're still learning. The last thing that I think it's helpful when you do quilts as you go is that it's helpful if you don't have a dedicated quilting space. So for me, I may have a dedicated quilting space but it's in an open area. Now, because of the way it's structured, I can leave a big quilt there and roll it up, and people, they know to just walk around it. But let's say you're using your kitchen table. You can't leave a quilt on your kitchen table for a week or 2 weeks or months if that's how long you're working on a project. So you can work on a few blocks at a time until you get to the end. Now, the reason why I wanted this book, and then I'm going to be wrapping it up, is because it has 3 different methods of joining. And there's ways of joining where you just have your block, the batting, and you just have that. And sometimes people put muslin and then they put the backing on later. Sometimes they do the free motion quilting with the backing on it. And then the third, I don't know, because I've only done it with muslin on the back. But the point is, there's different methods, and that's why I bought this book and I wanted to try it. And I thought this will be a great time. It's a scrappy project. It's not going to anybody. I mean, it could, but it's not. It wasn't made for that purpose, and I'm not in a hurry. I have several quilting motif idea books that I can use to draw inspiration from that I already have. So I wouldn't need to buy any additional supplies. And the only thing that I feel like I may need to look into is whether I have enough batting, because you would need to cut the batting for each piece. And so I just need to make sure that I have enough batting, because I feel like you would need to overcut it and have a little bit more than you would normally need. But that also, I don't think is that big of a deal. So that's it. I'm going to finish these blocks. I'm going to, essentially 99% sure I'm going to do quotes as you go. And that means I won't finish when everyone else finishes, but I will have all of the blocks pieced is my goal by this week. Any other questions before we say adios? I hope this was helpful and that you've enjoyed it. I would love to do an applique quilt like with some pretty flowers or something real intricate, maybe in the future. Now I have all these little stars, I need to just do 23 more. And piece 27 more. That's it. I have other videos coming up. One of the videos that I have coming up is how to take a hank of yarn to a cake. That'll be coming up. If not this week, the first part of next week, since we've done this live. I hope that you have enjoyed this. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you're welcome. Put them in the comment section once the video goes live. Don't forget to thumbs this video up, please. It helps me to know that this is something that you enjoy, and bring other people in. Let me know also if you think this is a technique that you would use, and also tell me what you're working on. As for me, I'm going to get back to sewing. I have those blocks to finish, and then I'm going to finish these off. I have between now and Wednesday to finish these, and I'm hoping I can get quite a few of them stitched down today, potentially with that variegated yarn that I think I have over there that I used for a baby blanket, and I don't see myself using it again unless I'm doing another baby blanket. So this will be a great time to use it. I think I am going to do it. So that is it. Thank you all for joining me today. I will see you all hopefully sooner than later. Take care and goodbye. I always like to hang around for a second. I'll see you guys next time. You all are so quiet. You must be like really working. Okay. Well, have a great day. Bye.